Welcome to Shaping Healthcare, a podcast by CitiusTech. Some of the great minds in the world are constantly striving to solve the healthcare industry's greatest challenges with technology, creativity, and agility. With every episode of the Shaping Healthcare podcast, we will take you deeper into the world of healthcare and life sciences and give you a perspective into what it takes to build a human-first, technologically enabled healthcare world. I'm your host, Laurel Rockall.
Joining me today are Kaushik Raha, PhD, and Yogesh Parte, PhD from CitiusTech. Kaushik is Vice President and Head of AI Solutions. He joined CitiusTech in October of 2023, and he has an extensive experience in the healthcare and life sciences industry. At CitiusTech, he is leveraging his background in health and life sciences and his deep expertise in computational modeling, data science, and AI ML to define and test. He is leading the development of the quality and trust solution. Yogesh is Associate Vice President and Incubation and Innovation Lead at CitiusTech. An aerospace engineer turned applied mathematician by training, Yogesh leads development of AI ML-based solutions, accelerators, and products at CitiusTech. With the introduction of large language model and generative AI-based techniques, all industries, including healthcare, are poised to undergo hyper-transformation. However, the concerns of quality, reliability, and security of these generative AI-based solutions in the context of healthcare is an active area of research and a field to which CitiusTech has contributed the healthcare industry's first quality and trust solution. All of these things and more are what Kaushik and Yogesh will be discussing with me today. Kaushik, Yogesh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Laurel. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I am looking forward to it as well. And these are some big things happening in the world of healthcare tech with those quality and trust solutions. So I'm really looking forward to digging in deeper and learning more about it. And Kaushik, we touched on your background in the introduction. It's quite an extensive background. But how do you think it has prepared you for the challenges of this new role in this new landscape of healthcare and medical technology?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think my background and experiences so far, uniquely prepared me for my current role at CitiusTech. Just to go into it a little bit more, I started my career in the life sciences industry, working for some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, Johnson & Johnson, GlaxoSmithKline, to name a few. And then I moved more downstream towards the healthcare payer provider space, medical health information technology, medical technology, as a practicing data scientist, and also, later on, building and leading data science and AI teams. So in that sense, you can say that I've got a deep exposure to the entire healthcare value chain. And, in each of these roles, it required me to do a deep dive into the domain itself, whether it was, the payer or provider or, life sciences, in order for us to be building solutions and, in the later part, leading teams to build products and solutions by leveraging data science and artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that gave me a lot of, domain context and domain expertise of what works in terms of the solution and product that are most desirable and want and the need of the market. So turning to CitiusTech, it's a healthcare services company, which also turns out that spans the entire healthcare value chain. We do work in, health, in life sciences and payer and provider and medtech. We do work all across. So my role as head of AI solutions, positions me uniquely, and it really allows me to draw upon all my experiences in healthcare and life science sector so far. And to be honest, I can't really think of too many other places that would offer me such an opportunity to leverage the breadth and the depth of my expertise and experience.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a perfectly unique fit for you. Having experienced different places in the healthcare chain means that you have a better understanding than maybe some others at particular opportunities and challenges that are needed for each of these areas.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine be very valuable to development and creating a solution that promotes trust, which crucial in any industry, of course, but particularly when looking at healthcare. So thank you. And for you, Yogesh, I would love to know, what was the motivation, speaking of the quality and trust solution. What was the motivation for building the solution as a key part for your practice going forward at CitiusTech?
Well, maybe the way I see it, the roots go back to my initial life in aerospace engineering, where safety, reliability, quality assurance, all that is ingrained and part of any of the processes or product that we build. Coming from there and looking at healthcare, it's not very different. In fact, healthcare is more intrigued as it's directly touching life of an individual, be it patient, be it physician, or even maybe some of our clients in our peer or another domain. So any technology, right, if it has to get adopted, if it has to drive its benefit, it's very, very important that the notion of quality, trust, and reliability that is manifested in some measurable way, quantifiable way, by which people can touch, feel those things, right, for them. In that context, these generative AI or large language-based applications are no different. So rather than a motivation for me, when I look at it, it is obvious necessity, right? That's what is the real motivation behind it.
When I found out that you were formerly in aerospace engineering, I thought of the parallels between early flight to aerospace and where we're at with AI and technology. And I was thinking, maybe in the early 20th century, the people, when they saw the Wright brothers had their first flight in these early airplanes and machines, that maybe there wasn't a ton of trust there at first.
In fact, that's what they built. If you really see, December 8th, 1903, they had their first test flight. But from that flight to build the second prototype, do you know how many flights they made, demonstration they made? Right? It's around 100 plus. Right? And what nobody else was ready. So Oliver and Rebel, they said, okay, we will fly one Oliver, then Rebel. And they made this multiple flight. And by that, they built the trust. Mm-hmm. And people had to actually come down and see every time, not just once, twice, but multiple times. And that's where they built the quality. Trust, and trust driven by quality that, yes, you can control. It's a controlled flight, unlike earlier attempts like Lilienthal and other. But then that's a beautiful history. And I believe we are at the cusp where we are kind of creating that kind of history in healthcare space with this transformation.
Right. And I was thinking then, in that parallel with healthcare and AI solutions and where we're at today, I was reading that over 80% of GenAI initiatives and the proofs of concept are being delayed because of, reliability and compliance concerns. And so they're just, left on the table for now because that lack of trust and GenAI solutions. So we need to build that trust up. And when I read that this solution will help healthcare organizations adopt and scale Gen AI solutions, I thought this is very, very interesting and groundbreaking stuff. And I would really like to learn more of how that would help. So Kaushik, could you explain a little bit more of that to me?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a great statistic that you just mentioned, Lauren, is 80% of Gen AI projects do not make it out of maybe like a proof of concept stage or a pilot stage. There's a lot of interest because there's a lot of, excitement about the kind of things that GenAI is able to do, but we are not able to take the next step. So that's exactly what the quality and trust solution is solving for. The idea that how do you build these, GenAI applications that you can essentially trust the outputs from. So what the quality and trust solution offers is a way to objectively measure, validate, and monitor these applications. And obviously, doing so in an automated manner. So to ensure that, the quality and the trustworthiness and consistency of also consistency of the business outcomes is there. And I think that's a very critical point, the business outcomes that eventually matter. And in the case of healthcare, we are talking about even health outcomes, patient outcomes. We're talking about patient lives here, right? So what we're trying to do is optimize optimize the framework where as we build these GenAI applications, we are providing a mechanism to measure, validate, monitor these applications when they have been deployed, in a healthcare setting, or even when they are being developed. So, to help the development of these applications by bringing in, the measure of quality and ways to able to sort of measure these metrics. So it's really a first systematic approach towards ensuring that quality and trust are ingrained in the GenAI development, operationalization, deployment lifecycle for healthcare organizations. In that sense, it's unique. We are bringing, quality and trust to healthcare GenAI, which is, like you said, is groundbreaking. It's the first time we are doing this. And what it'll do is it'll ensure that, GenAI is not a graveyard for healthcare, right? A lot of these applications do see the light of the day. They do see deployment in enterprise-wide situations. And at the end of the day, what that means is, more better outcomes, whether it's business outcomes, it's healthcare outcomes, whether it's patient lives. So ultimately, that's what it's all about. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds wonderful. Bringing that number down from 80% and being able to test and look at more of these things that would have been previously, left on the table to then be able to test them. Now that's great. And I also have read that it's the solution, the healthcare specific repository of 70 plus metrics, 25 plus methods across 7 dimensions, meaning accuracy, calibration, robustness, fairness, bias, toxicity, efficiency. Of course, very exciting. And Yogesh, what stage, though, can the solution be integrated into a healthcare GenAI solution? But what do organizations need to consider or have in place first before they implement something like this?
You exactly sound like our clients, because that's the same question they ask us. Right? Tell me what I need to do to be prepared to actually test your solutions or adopt it. Well, as Kaushik explained, right, there are 2 scenarios or epochs or touch points of this solution within your ecosystem of development of application thing. One, obviously, is when you are developing this solution. So right from inception, make sure you are, as I said, build that trust through transparency, repeatability, and showing a quantifiable way of this metric. So one touch point is obviously when you are doing your development, all this cross solution, you can utilize something like a standard development toolkit like Python SDK or other SDK that you can integrate during your development process. But then there are other set of scenarios where people have developed something already. And now they want to come and test how good is my development, whether my application sits within the realm of what you define as quality and trust. And is it really trustworthy? I just want to test it. So that's another touch point where they can use this in a non-intrusive manner. That many a time, what they will have as an application as it is, and our quality and trust solution as another application, and they should handshake. And there is a standard way to do those things using techniques like open standards for handshake, like open telemetry. So we enable this handshake through certain techniques like open telemetry and others by which you can non-intrusively use quality and trust solution on your application.
And when I mentioned earlier the 70 plus metrics and 25 plus methods, I've also seen it described as a multi-layer framework as well too. And I was very curious about that. What does multi-layer mean to you? What does that include? The various accelerators, the various frameworks. What are the different components that are all included in that solution? Kaushik, could you be able to explain that more to me?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just to pick up on your metrics, 70 plus and methods, just to give a little more detail on that, what we've done is, this is this is a new field, right? So people are still trying to figure out how do we measure quality of a generative application. And what they're doing is that in the context of very general sort of fields, right? General question answering, looking at Wikipedia, headlines from news sources. That's what they're developing these methods and metrics for. So what we've done is taken all that research and we've sort of, done evaluated for healthcare scenarios. So when we're saying that we have a compendium of 70 metrics and methods, that's what we're talking about. We have evaluated how can these methods be, evaluated in the context or computed in the context of healthcare scenarios. So that's the special sauce that we have here, that compendium, that engine. So, and the next question that you asked was the idea of these layers. So, quality and trust is a multi-layer paradigm. So it's not just about the LLM, which is the hot thing right now. ChatGPT, you ask it questions, it gives you answers. It's not just about that, right? It's about the search that needs to happen in the background. It's about the data that it was trained on. It's about the application itself. What is the application that you're trying to build? What is, as I said, what is the business outcome that you're trying to optimize? So these are the different layers that we need to optimize on while we are building these GenAI applications. That's the sort of the multi-layer paradigm. And I'll just, I'll just focus on the application layer. So we start with that layer. So we kind of define, what is the most important metric that you need to get right or optimize on, either reduce or improve, And then according to that, what are the other metrics that you might want to choose for interaction with the language model, for the data that's needed for the language model, for the search that's, going to be executed in the back end. So what are the metrics that allow us to build the, generative AI application with the focus on optimizing the business outcome, the health outcome, while we are looking at the different layers and finding the right metrics and the methods to do that exact thing. So that's sort of the multi-layer paradigm. It's not just about just the LLM, just that one layer. It's about what's around it, what's above it, what's below it. So that's the way I would put it. Yeah.
That's perfect. And is this an automated process in any way, or does this solution necessitate a more diligent execution with humans? The marriage of humans and machines here, or is this something that could be automated in the future, Yogesh?
Maybe I will take that question. Yes, it is automated, but then more than automation, our focus is to bring in what we call human-in-loop governance systems, because in healthcare, there has to be an accountability of decisions that are being made, right? That's an inherent component of any healthcare application. So automation can take its own course but then who makes those decisions? Are they humans or the machines? And that is where human-in-loop governance is very important, and that's the ingredient what we have. In terms of automation, you can see this all computations, handshake, analytics, alerting mechanisms, all that is automated, right? But what is not automated and by design is any of the corrective actions that are needed, because there is a component which also suggests, suppose if you're not trustworthy, what possibly you can do within your system to make it trustworthy. Now, following those kind of feedback, one has to take action, but that action has multiple ramifications as well as risk. And for that reason, especially those corrective action route is by design at this moment not automated. One of the also reason, this is a very complex, at the same time evolving system. There are many unknowns, so you have to be careful for automating that you are mitigating those risks and not putting patients or your end user's life in danger by any kind of sense. So that's the simple answer what I would have. Automated, but with human in governance system.
I really like that you use the term human in the loop, because I think maybe I sometimes feel like maybe not for those in the tech world, but maybe those outside of it, when there's the thought of AI, there's the thought of this, like the machine's doing it, or the human is taken out of it. But especially when it comes to healthcare, that can't be the case. That there's still doctors there that have to, and nurses and people, the care providers that have to be there to make the decisions. And I think that, or at least what I'm hearing from you, is that I feel that human in the loop not only can help keep like a checks and balances sort of system with AI, but also can help with the equity piece in that too. And which is great that you mentioned that because privacy, patient data, and privacy concerns are a huge part of the healthcare ecosystem, and therefore necessitating tighter governance and the ownership of data that's used by GenAI.
And very much ethical principles, because today machines are not capable to follow what we call ethical principles, because they are just algorithms, some logic. But then we humans have this capability to make those on-the-fly decision, even if we are in different scenario, unseen scenario, right? And that is where, again, it underscores importance of human governance system.
And at the time of our recording this, at least, I know everything moves fast in technology, but at the time that we're recording this, and gentlemen, please correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but there are no regulatory or governing bodies for AI. I mean, there's certainly some recommendations and some guidelines for it that are in place, but nothing specifically that exists for AI and solutions. So my question, Kaushik, is that how does the quality and trust solution align with what is so far like legislated compliance, regulatory measures? Is it supposed to serve in place of those, or is it an attempt to get ahead of these inevitable changes that are going to be happening in the future?
So yeah, I mean, I would say that there are responsible AI frameworks. These are frameworks, these are guidelines, like I mentioned. But they look at AI as I think of AI before Gen AI. It's a little bit different. We are talking about responsible AI frameworks in the context of building artificial intelligence models which are machine learning based, which are and there are quite a few guidelines or frameworks around that. There's also like federal guidelines. There is GDPR. So we are not trying to replace any of that. But what I think is missing in the context of generative AI is how do you take that and adopt it for generative AI? And generative AI is a little bit of a different beast here because it's not a typical, you send me data, I'll give you a model. My model will give you a number or an answer. It's more like, I'm going to take over your work and I'm going to start writing for you, right? So what are the guidelines around that, right? What are the compliance and regulatory guidelines around that, and what are the measures there? And that's what we are trying to align with. We are trying to align a quality and trust solution with, extrapolating from current AI frameworks and bringing it to the generative AI application development process. And I'll give you an example here. For example, HIPAA compliance is a good example where it's mandatory when you're dealing with patient data to be HIPAA compliant. And what our solution will do is help you develop and deploy these applications that would ensure HIPAA compliance while we are actually harnessing the power of GenAI. So, the danger here is that while you're trying to leverage GenAI, you're actually being non-compliant in many other dimensions, and that's not acceptable. And that's the white space that we are filling with our quality and trust solution. So you can actually be HIPAA compliant and still have the awesome power of generative AI for building applications, building solutions for healthcare in this case. And it would mitigate risks to data privacy by that's what we're doing. We're building the solution has this algorithmic guardrails that will ensure security and compliance. So if you're in danger of being non-compliant, if you're in danger of data privacy breach or PHI exposure, then this solution would actually sort of bring that ahead and warn you. So those are kind of systems in play that are part of the QNT solution.
That's amazing and so important too, that you get that warning ahead of time. It sounds like there's certainly a lot of help that could be given to people using it. And
just to follow up, these are some of the major concerns that people have while even sort of deploying this. What is the danger of privacy breach? Someone comes up with some prompt which exposes patient information. How can we stop that, right? And that's these are known as like adversarial techniques. And so that's where this plays a role. We have those guardrails which can prevent from that kind of a risk or that kind of an incident. So it's
and maybe to complement, if we read today's news, right, there are now techniques by which just giving an ASCII-based picture, you can pull all the application For example, today there are guardrails which says, okay, don't talk about destructive things. If you look at Open AI or GPT, right? There are guardrails. If you ask, okay, give me a recipe to create a bomb, it will stop you, right? Mm-hmm. But there are means of writing bomb in text. If you create some dotted image in also writing that text in bomb and set, it will actually give you a recipe. And that's what today's some of those news are. And then these are same thing. Now imagine similar way if we are trying to snatch patient data, right? Yeah. And then there are heavy penalties within healthcare domain the moment there is a data breach. Now, as an organization, I would like to go there, right? And that is where what Kaushik describes. And today's news is one of that example. Why again and again, right? All these measures, methodologies becomes very, very important. You can use it either way. And what we want to ensure that, yes, it's safe enough, trustworthy enough to use it for your benefit and not to harm.
Absolutely. Yes. And trust, I mean, is that being the theme of our episode today and what we're talking about, but trust is, it's so important. It's so critical in our personal relationships and our jobs and our industries and industries across the board. But it has a wide area of interpretation, I feel like, and especially depending on what context you're using it in, what kinds of trust are more important than others. And we have to be able to trust the data that we are getting from AI. But first, we have to trust the data that is given to AI because just inevitably a lot of human-based data has bias. It's because we are humans and we are fallible. Yeah. It's not that it's purposeful or anything, but we have to be able to trust the data and but then also that our data and our personal information is kept safe. That's another thing to trust. And so I get really, Yogesh, who gets to decide what is trust? What's a sufficient amount of trust for something to work acceptably? How much fallacy or fallibility, I should say, is acceptable for an AI tool to have? Like, is there room for error in something like this?
Well, I think this question in a little different way. Maybe it's important to address this question. We need to define what is trust, right? It's an abstract concept for many, but then can it be measurable in some way? How we define a trust becomes very, very important. Now, at least in the context of this technology solution or generative AI, the notion of trust is directly linked to confidence that users have in this application's ability to reproduce results reliably, accurately, and as I said, right, more with ethical behavior of that entire AI system. So if we can prove these applications can do this thing with confidence, with multiple repetitions, that is reliable, accurate, and follows ethical principles, then we will say, yes, it's trustworthy, right? So now that is actually what has driven for last 1.5 years, all these ideas of guardrails, frameworks, and even the legal frameworks, so that we define what is trustworthy application, right? And once we have that definition, then our life becomes easy to decide who decides and how they decide what's reliable, what's accurate, what's ethical, right? And then you will see over the last 1.5 years, there are multiple agencies and organizations who own this kind of legislation ability to define this guardrail. Some examples like OPEC across the world. CHAI framework, CHAI is a coalition of healthcare associations for AI and its governance, right? So they have come up following this very basic notion of what is meant by trust. And once you define that, what it means is this is how you can, these organizations, which are well known for their normative performances over the years, they set these different doctrines or expectations of frameworks for this guardrail. What we are trying to do out of this, because we are not a normative agency, right? But we have to be kind of in adherence with these normative agencies, and our quality and trust solution actually takes all those guidelines, frameworks, and principles from OPEC, NIS, HI, And as nascent as Europe's AI law, if you really see Europe's AI law, if you see page number 5 on that memorandum, actually talks of reliability, accuracy, and ethical behavior, right? So that's how this trust gets defined by some of these normative agencies, right? And they have all the rights to define in a legal fashion or advised way.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And Kaushik, for you as head of AI solutions, do you have some use cases that spring to mind where this quality and trust solution, like that, where you have it in place and it can really serve its purpose and help improve a business's outcome of interest?
Yeah, absolutely. We are actually building some of these solutions internally. So, that's the cool part about this. So we are building these GenAI applications, and then we are integrating our solutions, our quality and trust solution with these applications. For example, one of the applications is prior authorization application, which is which is powered by quality and trust solution at this point. And as part of this application, what needs to be done is essentially approve or deny or authorize a certain treatment based on a lot of different documents that agent might have to, or a nurse might have to sort of review. And this could be the patient history, current medications, and also align them with the clinical guidelines, which might be bespoke clinical guidelines which an organization has, or it could be a general clinical guideline that's available. So what the GenAI application is doing, it's facilitating the retrieval of these documents. It's facilitating sort of summarization of all of these, summarization of the patient history from these disparate document sources, and also how it's aligning with the clinical guidelines. So it's extracting the right clinical guidelines which need to be aligned with the patient history in order for the agent or the nurse or even the physician to make that judgment call on whether to authorize or approve or deny. And what the quality and trust solution does is, as part of the workflow, it is monitoring the interaction with the generative application and providing metrics on on trust and quality like that we just discussed. So that's a very useful demonstration of some of the use cases. The other one I can think of is also benefits verification process, which is kind of similar. It's for checking the patient's health insurance coverage. So benefits coverage, as you probably know by personal experience, it can go into long documents. These are super wording. They're complex to understand, and even for an SME, it's grunt work, right? To read through that and to find the right sections that you want to sort of evaluate. So what the GenAI application does is it makes that a lot easier. It reduces that cognitive burden, if you will, on the agent. But the quality and trust framework is sort of providing the guardrails through this whole process. So the GenAI application is solving the benefits. It's making the benefits verification easier. But the QNT solution is making sure that things are done properly and there's the right amount of quality and metrics that are being monitored and evaluated and so on and so forth. So there's also a lot of other use cases. Maybe I'll let Yogesh talk about some of the clinical use cases that he's been working on. They're very interesting, and I'd just love to give him a chance to talk about at least one of them. Yep.
Love to hear it.
Yeah. There are very interesting applications in terms of when patient comes for consultation, what kind of relevant information is shown to a physician. Now, in typical fashion, if you go to physician's office, especially in typical hospital, they will have to go through 25 different screens to just arrive at it. Now, with GenAI, it's a single screen where on front, it will show them what is relevant for them. Now, again, this is very, 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 you can say, the real harnessing the power of generative AI, because as a human, we can control not more than 10 to 15 different concepts or ideas or factors at a time. But machines can work with thousands of the touch point in patient history and look at and tell you what is relevant for today's consultation. So that's one of the keys. And then the machine is telling you all about what's relevant. It becomes again imperative that it's very, very reliable. right? So that is where we are actually showcasing the clinical aspect of this college intro solution, and in clinical scenario, how well this can help you and assist to build that, again, confidence and trust. Okay.
As someone who used to work in a healthcare office, in a doctor's office, doing that sort of that grunt work as part of the job, the benefit verification and patient check and all these things, I would personally like to say thank you for this solution that's coming to the scene here. This is going to be so helpful for everyone across the board and as providers. And so this. But on a more serious note, the quality and trust solution it's an industry first for healthcare organizations, and it's going to help address the reliability and the quality and all these trust requirements for GenAI. And do you see? I mean, now that this has been released, have you seen that there are similar kinds of solutions that are sprouting up across the industry, either before or around the same time, or is this truly groundbreaking, pioneering? You're setting a standard here at CitiusTech.
Maybe I will take that question because this is what exactly we're asked when we proposed an idea, right? And what definitely we have is a first mover's advantage, and definitely first within healthcare space, right? We have not seen anybody till now. Maybe, right, we will have to search it much better way, but at least to our knowledge at this moment, there is no claimed such solution within healthcare space. But across different industries, there are parallels. And as the time progresses, as this development of generative AI-based application becomes more and more standardized, there will be more and more need to prove that trustworthiness. So I believe there will be much more such solutions coming up, but what we definitely have is a first mover's advantage as far as healthcare space is concerned.
Yeah, maybe I'll add a little bit to that. Like I said, CitiusTech is, spans the healthcare value chain. So we see problems that, providers face. We see problems that payers face, life sciences, pharmaceutical industries face. And we're able to see the common themes of quality and trust. So that positions us uniquely in a way, right? Across the value chain, what can be built as sort of a horizon which can address, all the challenges in these verticals. So that I think gives us a little bit, a bit of an edge in that sense. The first mover and the fact that we get to see, across the entire value chain. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And it's very, very exciting, very exciting stuff, of course. And as we conclude, Kaushik, what opportunities or obstacles have emerged in your pursuit of developing trustworthy and high quality AI applications within health tech? And how do you envision these impacting the future of healthcare innovation?
Yeah, at the risk of sounding repetitive, Lauren, I would say that, then let's talk about the opportunity, right? So I do feel generative AI is the opportunity that is a game changer. The natural language understanding and synthesis capabilities of large language models is really phenomenal, and it can significantly accelerate building solutions that will, I think, in my opinion, will solve some of the longest, standing problems in healthcare, where there's a lot of cognitive work that needs to be done just to get to level zero. By that, what I mean is like bring the data to a point where you can start building models on that, and that's where the generative AI opportunity is so critical. But it's also a double-edged sword, and that's the obstacle as well. And we've been talking about trust and quality, and that's exactly the point, right? If I cannot trust the output of a large language model or a GenAI application, if it goes off in hallucination land and tells me things that are not true, they're not factual, then that's a huge obstacle. I cannot go anywhere with that. So it is a double-edged sword where there's a huge opportunity. At the same time, there's also a huge obstacle, and that's why I feel. What we are doing is trying to sort of codify trust and quality so that it's standardized, it's measurable, it's objective. And it is demonstrably, whatever outputs are coming out of these models are grounded in facts. And for us to sort of show that, make it real for our customers, I think that's the game. And I would say it's every single time, it can't be that we have a solution which, works like 90% of the time. Like that's some of the barriers we also have. That's some of the obstacles. those are tall barriers to overcome, but I believe you're on the right track. So, I do feel Gen AI is that opportunity as well as the challenge that we have to work with. But looking to the future, if all that we are doing pans out, we are successful in our pursuits, I do feel that, looking back, people will see this time as an inflection point in the history of healthcare innovation, where we finally will be able to sort of solve some of the long-standing problems using artificial intelligence and machine learning, for example. Solving these problems that have sort of held back healthcare in a way that other sectors might not have had so much trouble with, for example, retail, like I'll say. But yeah, that's. I'll just end with that we will be looking back at this time as an inflection point that changed a lot of things in the history of healthcare innovation.
I believe that too. In my humble layperson opinion, I every time I'm having a conversation with someone in healthcare tech, that seems to be a common theme that comes up, and something that's said. And it's very exciting that it's things that seem to be on the cusp. And along with that, a common theme is sharing a lot of striking a balance, between the different systems and as it's being developed, and keeping that in a balance as the progress goes. And it's very exciting times indeed. And Yogesh, I want to finish up with you. Do you have any predictions for how digital transformation in the industry at large, may be affected by changes in either regulation or the types of Gen AI tools that get developed over, let's say, the next 10 years or so?
10 years is ours. In the technology domain, it's too big time horizon.
Shorten it if you want.
That's right. But let me think through. Okay. What I think, right? There are possibly two major axes, I will say, right, across which it will possibly evolve. One, obviously, regulations, right? Just like, we discuss aerospace. Wright brothers flew for 10 years and then came trustworthiness and FAR regulations, right? And this will have, and with any like new technology, normative things, regulations catch up. So one, definitely where it will evolve are evolving regulations. And that is going to influence many digital transformations within it. But we will see possibly how I try to elaborate. But second aspect, as I again and again possibly been stressing, is how fast the healthcare industry embraces this best practices for trustworthiness, transparency, AI, right? Because that is what will foster user trust, acceptance, and then growth and everyday use of this application. So these are two major things. Regulations, right? No doubt they will address existing concerns about data privacy, bias, accountability in a comprehensive way. And we are seeing that evolution to happen in terms of national and international laws being carried. Now, all these agencies, and especially the healthcare agency, have to be compliant with them. Why they need to be compliant in their digital journey? Because if they are not, first thing, their reputation is going to get affected. And second thing, they will lose the market share, because if it's not compliant to regulations, then obviously it's not trustworthy and no market, right? So that is where many of those adoptions or journeys will evolve, in my opinion. And as I said, right, fairness, transparency, accountability across all your AI deployment, because AI is kind of becoming the way, right? 1980s, when first time Excel sheets came everywhere, or Lotus sheet came, everybody was thinking is something different. But today, if you see how people are using Excel or any of those tools, it's like day-to-day jobs. So likewise, this will evolve, but that has evolved again out of that using measurable way to prove that, yes, there is a quality and there is a trust. So that's what I would like to say, maybe in few words, saying that trust, solution in every touch point in your digital journey is what going to see get adopted across industry, definitely in healthcare, because there is no other way it can happen, right? So that's it, and that's why we are there with our quality and trust solution. expertise.
Absolutely. And science is it's always been a rapidly growing field. I think there's some parts of it that are going faster than others. Sometimes I feel like technology, AI is a great example of that. And I feel like it's exciting. As Kaushik said, as we're on the cusp of some of these things and seeing where the future goes with all of it. But it sounds like, there are people in place to to help that get going forward and have the right things in place to build that trust and to show the world and to show healthcare that these are solutions that we have in place that are going to be very helpful for everyone.
We are optimistic about our future in healthcare. As simple as that.
Good. Yeah, it sounds like you should be. And so thank you to you both and to your teams for such a fantastic groundbreaking new thing that we have here with the quality and trust solution. That's wonderful. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today and for all your expertise in your conversation. This was really a pleasure to learn more from you. Thank you.
It was a great pleasure, and thanks for a great session. I really enjoyed the questions and the conversation. Thank you so much, Laura.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
The Shaping Healthcare podcast is brought to you by CitiusTech, a leader in healthcare consulting and IT services. To find out more about CitiusTech, visit CitiusTech.com. To listen to more interesting insights on healthcare technology and innovations, search and subscribe to the Shaping Healthcare podcast. Thank you for listening. If you want to share any feedback or would like to be featured in our podcast, do write to us at citiusvision@citiustech.com.